Hey everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Off the Post. This is an opinion piece, and I am Jake. Today, I really wanted to break down the fantastic victory by Sky Blue FC over the Seattle Reign from the opening weekend. Like many of you, I was not too high on Sky Blue's chances for the upcoming season. You know, they had so much turnover, a lot of new pieces, a bunch of players came in via their tryout system, and it wasn't like a star-studded Portland team that everyone can see on paper. They have a good squad. Going into the game against Seattle, a lot of question marks, not a lot of consistency in lineup. So, going into that game versus Seattle, who hasn't lost at Memorial Stadium, 2 years they've been there. This was one of the biggest upsets in NWS history. So, really wanted to give a shout out to them and kind of break down the key moments to the game. Gonna try something a little different that we haven't really tried on the channel yet. Try to break down with some images and really give you guys some in-depth analysis of what kind of went down. So first up, to start the discussion, gonna look at their starting lineup. So last year, Sky Blue went with the 4-2-3-1 with Killian, Hagsma, and Friels in the middle three, with Sam Kerr and Kelly O'Hara really pushing aggressively to support Nadim up front. But against Seattle, they actually went with a more standard 4-4-2. One of the key things to note is that Kanhimi, she's more of a withdrawn striker in this system. We'll kind of get into that a little bit more, but really, 4-4-2, pretty standard lineup. Going forward, here's a good image of what that looked like during the game itself. You can really see those tight lines, those four players staying tight, staying connected, really denying Seattle any chance of getting some space to break between those lines. As you can kind of note, thanks to the faded football lines on the field, Sky Blue was able to kind of sit back. There really only was about 10 yards between their midfield line and the defensive line. So it was really hard for Seattle to find players in that space. Also, you can kind of see in this picture that their wide midfielders, Lytle and Shauna Gordon, they have tucked inside to help provide a little bit extra defensive stability. As a center back, this is something that I'm really looking out for, is key defensive shape, and how they really stack the lines and how far apart they are, and what kind of space they're given. Also in this game, you'll see there are a lot of times that Kelly Kanhini, she actually was in her withdrawn role. She kind of made a midfield trio, so it was kind of a 4-4-1-1, so to speak. In certain cases, she would drop closer to Rodriguez and Killian to kind of break up that midfield trio from Seattle. As you can see, the ball's out wide. Kanhini is really trying to take away the easy pass to Winners, so they can't really circulate the ball out and back and around. So she really was there to break up that midfield trio of Winners, Lytle, and Fishlock. And as you can see from that trio, there's not an easy pass to get into that midfield space. A little later on, we can see, if I can click to the next one, there we go. Kim Lytle is finally on the ball here in the 13th minute there. And really the Sky Blue defense is doing a really good job of shepherding her and making her, giving her very limited space. You can see the front three I've highlighted. They're circled there. They're really trying to stretch the field vertically to give Kim Lytle a lot of space to operate. But the Sky Blue midfield is really working hard to collapse the space around Kim Lytle, not giving her a lot of options. And really, as you can see from her vision field, her only option is to go back to Keelan Winners, who has to then recycle the play. This is something that happened a lot during the game. Players would get on the ball and their only option would be to go backwards or side to side. So that's something that Sky Blue's defensive preparation really did an effective job on. Moving forward, we get towards the first goal of the game, and it starts with a long ball, kind of hopeful long ball into the Sky Blue third, and Aaron Simon and Christy Rampone, they track it down, and there's really not any danger really at this point. What we see, and at the point, Christy Rampone doesn't really have a good outlet pass, so she elects to play it long. And at this point, Kanhini, she recognizes that she needs to challenge for an aerial challenge with the outside back Carson Pickett. Even though she doesn't win this ball, it kind of puts off the Seattle defense and allows Sky Blue to kind of get out. And as you can see in the next picture, the ball makes it over Kanhini and Pickett, and then makes it to Lou Barnes. And then Kanhini is actually aggressively tracking her down too, and she actually wins the ball. So at this point, the ball is going to bobble out to Natasha Kai just outside that circle. And really, that's when Sky Blue is about to transition into their attack for pretty much the first time all game. And if I can click my next picture quicker. So now Kai's got transition, moving in transition. She's 1v1 with Kendall Fletcher, but as you can see from the faded football lines, 43 yards from goal. So she smartly elects to play a ball wide to the onrushing Shauna Gordon instead. Not going to beat Kendall Fletcher for pace there. So she takes a smart route. At this point, Seattle shouldn't be too worried about the situation. They've got plenty of numbers coming back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sky Blue has about 5 coming forward. Ellie Reed's going to jump out and put pressure on Shauna Gordon, and it actually makes her forces her to go play a negative pass, which at this point still not too worried, but really it's about to get dangerous because as you can see, the ball is going to drop to Sarah Killian there, and because Reed is so tight on Gordon, she left this huge amount of space for Sky Blue to exploit. And Kelly O'Hara recognizes this immediately and makes an extremely aggressive overlapping run and exploits that space that Ellie Reed has left. As a defender, it's something you have to be mindful of, is when to press high and when to cede space. And at that point, she elected to press high, but she leaves that space in behind. It's going to get exploited. Now on the far side, I actually highlighted Carson Pickett's the far side wing back, and she's actually pointing out Taylor Lytle. She is trying to decide whether or not she should pick up Lytle out wide or stay tucked in. Right now, I think the important danger is in the middle, so she's smart on that. But as a defender, you're constantly making decisions on where to step, when to drop in, who to pick up. So now that Kelly O'Hara is going to get that ball in space, that's kind of when Seattle's defense is really going to be like, oh shit, because they're really scrambling now. As you can see, there's too much room. Kendall Fletcher I believe it's Kendall Fletcher. She is not close enough to Ellie Reed to help her out. So there's no way she can get over in time. Ellie Reed's really struggling to make up that ground and catch Kelly O'Hara for pace. And we can also see that all the defenders are now facing their own goal. And as a defender, as you're running back towards your own goal, you want to make sure your body shape is more of a side on, so that way you can make an effective clearance. When you're facing your own goal and the ball is coming towards your own goal, any touch that you make could go into your goal and cause an own goal. So this is a really dangerous situation. This is when the panic button should be going off in all their heads. And when we get a little bit forward in the play, now Kelly O'Hara can really pick out a cross. And at this point, Keelan Winters has been tracking Natasha Kai back post. But as you can kind of see from this picture, she's pointing at her. She's not picking her up. as a holding mid, she's kind of worried about the late trailing runs from Rodriguez and Sarah Killian at the top of the box. So she's pointing at pointing at Natasha Kai, who's now got to get picked up by Carson Pickett. And Carson Pickett's a little bit slow to recognize the situation. She is back post, but she's not really close enough to Natasha Kai. And Natasha Kai is really intelligent and recognizes this. At this point, you see her hands up. You can see that I drew a line there about how much separation there is between her and Natasha and her defender. So, there's a lot of space. And as a striker, you recognize that you're going to attack and attack aggressively. So at this point, it's not looking good for Seattle. And at this point also, Kelly O'Hara puts the cross in. Everyone's watching the ball. No one is picking up Natasha Kai. And it's just going to be bad news bears from there. And as you can see, when the ball gets a little close, gets further across the goal, Carson Pickett pinches and thinks she can if she goes earlier and closer to the ball, she can meet it before Natasha Kai. And because she misjudges her jump, she does not get to the ball at all and leaves a quite sizable gap there between her and Natasha Kai, who can head down, back across face of goal. It takes a little deflection and goes in for the opening goal. So at this point, so far so good. This is their best and only attack, and they've scored. And now they've really started to get into their defensive rhythm, highlighting again 10 yards of separation between their defensive line and their midfield line, really limiting that space for Seattle to attack. And I also highlighted on this one, Mana Mellis. She as a center forward, she has come out wide to help Yanez there in possession. Now, when she does that, it really removes the only central option for the team, and really doesn't really stretch the field much for them. They have to either combine quickly and break lines, or it has to get recycled, and that's what ends up happening in this situation, is that the ball has to go backwards. And once again, it really shows that Sky Blue's getting those numbers back, keeping them from going forward. At this point, Seattle's a little bit more, since they're chasing the game, they're really going to start having to force passes across that line. And Sky Blue is doing a really good job of picking out those passing lanes. You see both players recognizing the split pass option, and they both collapse, and they win the ball back there. Going forward, here we are in the 39th minute. Seattle's had possession for quite a few minutes, and it looks like there might be a dangerous situation on, but really Sky Blue is doing a great job defensively. They've got 7 players in the box there to defend the situation. The only option for Jess Fishlock in the box is Mana Mellis, who's being effectively marked by Erica Skrosky back there, really taking away any option for her to go forward. So, and again, ends up going backwards. And a couple seconds later, actually, we see a little bit better that I've highlighted Kanhini, Killian, and Raquel Rodriguez, because they are pushing out, and they're all going to clog up that zone 14. And just to give you a little bit of soccer jargon, zone 14 is the space kind of around the penalty area D. It's where the famous number 10s kind of made their living. Players like Maradona, Carlos Valderrama on the men's side, they live there. Riquelme, stand there, pick passes all day, and that's the zone where the most effective assists come from, because you're in front of goal going forward. So it's just a very dangerous area, and if you can clog that up, keep a player like Kim Little out of that space, you're going to have a good day. So at this point, we are getting to about halftime. Oh yes, so now we've entered the second half, and now we are. There was one moment where Seattle really effectively made Sky Blue pay for a little bit of defensive lapse. As you can kind of see, it's not even a threatening situation to begin with. We've got a throw in on the sideline. It's going to go backwards to Kendall Fletcher. at this point. Shape's going to look pretty good here in a second when I pull it up. Yep, it's very familiar shape. Here we go again, back four, midfield four. The only thing that you'll note is that Kim Little has found this little pocket of space. She's not in a good spot for a pass at the moment, so Yanez elects to go backwards to Kendall Fletcher. And what we'll see here in a second is that because Kendall Fletcher is going to play a very quick one-time pass back to Yanez, Sarah Gordon had pinched up to put pressure on Kendall Fletcher, and when she did that, Kendall Fletcher played one-time ball to Yanez. Yanez now looks forward, and she has space to go. And at this point, now she can see Kim Little there in the space, and you can see the box around her. She's got a lot of room to operate, and that's why earlier I highlighted that all those players were clogging up zone 14. Now they've kind of abandoned that space, and this is where Seattle becomes dangerous. And when you get Kim Little on the ball that close to goal, it's always going to spell problems. So we get the ball into Kim Little, and she can turn. She has plenty of time to turn and run at Erica Skrosky. And at this point, as you can see, I've highlighted the distance between Skrosky and Christy Rampone on the other side. Huge gap. Kind of a one lapse for Erica Skrosky all the game, really, and that she missed her spacing with Rampone there, just because she was so focused on getting over to Kim Little. It happens with defenders. You worry about the playmaker and you get sucked out of position a little bit. But at the same time, Jess Fishlock is going to recognize that, and she's going to blow past Raquel Rodriguez, who doesn't recognize the situation, doesn't recognize the danger, and doesn't track that runner. So the next pass is obviously Kim Little's going to play that ball into space for Jess Fishlock. And as you can see, at this point, Christy Rampone recognizes this is an emergency defending situation. So she's scrambling to get pressure on Jess Fishlock so she doesn't get the cross away. And at the back post, she leaves Erin Simon alone with Mana Mellis and Merritt Matthias, which is not good news for Erin, because those two are going to outmuscle her to that ball. As you can see, Jess Fishlock gets her cross away. Mana Mellis and Merritt Matthias both outmuscle her. They're both in between her and the goal. It's really, at this point, Erin Simon almost gets back in time to prevent the header, but at this point, Merritt Matthias is gonna score that all day. So really, there's one moment where Skrosky and Rodriguez, the rookies, had a little bit of defensive lap, but other than that, they were solid all game, and that's the only time they got punished. They'll learn from that. They can't allow to have these mistakes more than once a game, because quality players like Kim Little and Jess Fishlock will punish you for it. So at this point, Seattle is going to try to take the game to them and find a winner. This is actually from a cleared corner kick. Hope Sola punched it out to I think Matthias there, and she's kind of trying to get the counterattack going, but Sky Blue is so well at getting back. They already have 6 players back in their own defensive half to stop anything from happening, and they're gonna shut down any sort of play. So at this point, we're kind of getting towards the Sky Blue's second goal, and actually, it's from a situation where Seattle had the ball in their own half, and Sky Blue won it back with high pressure. Up to this point, Sky Blue had done a really good job of sitting back, about 30 yards from goal. They're two banks of 4, keeping the play in front of them, moving them side to side, backwards, but not forward and not breaking. At this point, again, Seattle's trying to force some passes through the middle, and at this point, Jess Fishlock is trying to find Keelan Winters. But at this point, Keelan Winters is in a pocket surrounded by Sky Blue players. This is a risky pass, and because Keelan Winters is actually going to take a fairly bad touch, it's going to put her under pressure immediately. This is Raquel Rodriguez in front of her. Kim DeCesar streaks back and puts pressure on from behind. She had come on for Natasha Kai by this point, and at that point, she's over she has too much pressure on her. She loses possession, and it pops out to Sarah Killian, who's just behind Rodriguez there. So at this point, Sarah Killian can kind of pick her head up and find a pass wide. Shauna Gordon again tucks inside and helps collect possession, and she looks at those three in the midfield and picks out a pass to Raquel Rodriguez. And again, looking down at this near side, we see Kelly O'Hara. She's going to aggressively, par for the course. What I said earlier. She sees a chance to aggressively attack, and she's going to exploit it. And because Shauna Gordon has tucked inside, it leaves so much space for her to exploit. And it really is part of the reason why Sky Blue came out victorious in this game, is because of Kelly O'Hara's significant attacking presence. In this case, Rodriguez gets the ball. Ellie Reed is out of position again. She's trying to track Kanhini, who's a more immediate passing threat. But at the same time, there's space between her and Fletcher for a through pass to get through to Kelly O'Hara. And if I can get to my next image without making you look at me too much. Kelly O'Hara gets the ball, but unfortunately for her, she takes it too far wide and ends up kind of scuffing a low shot towards Hope Solo at the near post, which a little disappointing for the break there. But at this point, Hope Solo, she sees that Kelly O'Hara just shot at near post, and there's definitely going to be that space for her to exploit on their own counter. So she sees that, she starts aggressively going towards that space. And I've highlighted the other Seattle players because if you look at them, their body language is really, it's not great, because they're all looking down. They're kind of walking / jogging out of their box. They're not prepared for the transition play that's going to happen. And Hope Solo, unfortunately for them, doesn't play a great pass. And as you can see, Shauna Gordon picks it off because she's tucked inside. There's a space I've highlighted that she's looking to play that winger in, but she's unable to do it. And you can see by her body language, you can tell that she was not expecting her to misplace that pass and not ready for the transition play. So now we move. Gordon gets the ball out to Kelly O'Hara, who's still up there. Seattle's not in a bad spot. Kelly O'Hara really only has one option, and that's to kind of play a cross over to Kim DeCesar, who's trying to get in between the center back and the wing back on the far side. And she overhits her cross, so actually it wasn't too bad. But Taylor Lytle at the far side, she keeps the ball in play. So at this point, she knows if she puts that ball across the face of goal, she has a couple players who can attack it. She's got Kim DeCesar there. She's got Raquel Rodriguez, but they're both being marked. And I've highlighted at the top of the box the third runner here, Kelly Kanhini, who's been trailing play. She's successfully ghosted behind Jess Fishlock, who is totally oblivious because she's ball watching Lytle at the moment and has no idea that Kelly is behind her, which is unfortunate for her because they are going to be made to pay for that. We see the cross comes in, Hope Solo can't deal with it, and you can see at this point, I've highlighted a very large area where Kelly Kanhini is wide open to tap in her goal for her first goal of her professional career and first goal, the go-ahead goal in this case. So, trying to click on my next picture here. So at this point, Sky Blues kind of getting back into their defensive shape, kind of playing out the rest of the game, trying to keep things tight. They actually sub out Raquel Rodriguez and put in Ashley Nick, who's a little bit more defensive-minded. And we can really see they're really clogging up zone 14, making sure that nothing gets through the middle there. And as you continue even further into the 85th minute, we still have that great shape, only a small space in between the lines, nothing that they can do to play through them. So that's really the story of the game, is great defensive shape, great transition play, great attacking width from Kelly O'Hara, and they took their chances when they got them. And here's the great image of the weekend, I think, is when Kelly Kanhini scored her goal and she tackled, I think that's Kim DeCesar. So, as a Sky Blue fan, you should enjoy that. And if you're Washington Spirit, you should definitely be put on notice because you're going up to their home field and they just beat Seattle for the first time in Seattle. So that is what I have. Hopefully you enjoyed my analysis of this historic game for Sky Blue, and keep an eye out over the weekend for all the games, and we'll be back on Monday for a review show for that. So if you have any thoughts or opinions on what I've just shared, feel free to put them in the comments, and I'll try to get back with you. So thanks, and hope you enjoy this weekend's games.